Hey Amy, this is Dave Bazenko. How are you doing?
I'm doing okay.
Well,
How
thank
are
you.
you?
I'm doing really, really well this morning. So thank you for to give me the opportunity to reach out to you this morning. This is awesome. It's not
Yeah.
often. It's not often that everybody that I reach out to on LinkedIn is willing to connect this way. So this is awesome.
Well, I mean, LinkedIn is supposed to be a social networking site, right?
Hmm.
It's supposed to be like, I mean, for me, if I go and I network with somebody at a networking event,
Hmm.
I'm going to reach out. I'm going to try and get to know them
Yeah.
a little bit. And I do get some. Sometimes I never get a response. Other times I do, but
Well, I think the thing is with
it's
LinkedIn,
fun.
yeah, with LinkedIn, like any other social media platform, it is an opportunity to connect with people. But I think it's really important to connect with everybody that connects with me. I go out of my way to try to connect with certain people, especially in the HR and learning fields. And when they do come back to me, I always reach back and say, hey, thanks for connecting. Here's an article you might be interested in. Let's just keep the dialogue open. So I really appreciate you just taking the time to say, hey, let's connect on a more personal level. So this is awesome. Whereabouts are you today?
I live in between Baltimore and Washington,
All right, cool.
so just a few miles away from you.
Well, not that far really. I mean, I'm just, you know where Buffalo is, so I'm just
Oh, okay.
about 20 minutes from Buffalo, just on the Canadian side of the border. So, uh,
Oh, so you're
sure.
like under bitter cold and less snow.
Yeah, it was. I think with the wind chill yesterday, it was like minus 30 degrees Celsius. I don't even know what that translates out into Fahrenheit, but I had some friends in Chicago I was talking to yesterday, and they were saying it was like minus 47. So we were getting the same nasty cold that they were getting. But you know what? If you're ready for it, dressed right for it, it's so invigorating. I just don't like exercising in it because it gets almost dangerous if you're out there too long. But
Oh, for your lungs, absolutely.
yeah, it can be dangerous for people who do lengthy things in the outdoors. So, going for a 30 or 40-minute walk was appropriate, but going for a 2-hour run was not. So, yeah.
See, I'd be using my treadmill.
Well, yeah, I've got that too, but you know what? Winters are long, and the more sunshine I can get, the more I can get outside. I always just feel better. I always feel better coming from outside than when I'm in my home gym here inside.
Yeah, well, it's boring.
Yeah. So tell me, what is your interest, or do you have an interest in growth mindsets at all?
To some degree, yes. I went and looked at some of your information and your journal and things like that.
Did you download the journal?
No, I downloaded it. It was really big, and I went to print a couple pages. I've got a brand new computer, and I need to get it hooked up to the printer.
Yeah. That's one of the things. I mean, this sucker. I've got mine right in front of me, and I give it away for free online because I think that's really important to just sort of give away our best ideas. I mean, one of the really interesting things for me is I know that people are looking at, they're downloading it, but whether or not they're printing it out and using it, yeah, I don't know if they're doing that. And my wife is following along right now in the same process. She's using the journal for the first time actually today, because I created the journal for the start of January, and it's my first time actually doing a big journal like this. I used to do it online, but what I found was that where she was getting bogged down with was actually just creating her why and vision statement at the end of the journal, which is sort of counterintuitive. We want you to go to the back of the journal, figure out why this is important, what your vision looks like, so that when you start journaling every day, it won't seem like work. Part of the problem with people with fixed mindsets is they go, well, I've only got so many hours in the day, so therefore I've got to be really resourceful with my time. But if you look at it from a perspective of, I've got 5 hours of the day that are free to myself, how am I going to make the best use of that time? And if you look at it from that perspective, you can go, you know what? In those 5 hours, I can do some really incredible things if I'm strategic about it. And one of those things is looking at what is my vision, what is my goals to realize that vision, and then just sort of creating 5 things that are going to help take you to that place during the day. So it's kind of an interesting process for me to go through because I watch people with fixed mindsets sort of struggle in the beginning and they go, I can't do this. It's just too much work. But if you actually break it down and look at the beginning and go, why do I want to do this? What's the vision that I want to create for my life in 5-10 years? What do I want that to look like? Like actually visually paint a picture in your mind and write it down. And then when you've done that, come back and say, okay, what are the steps I can take today to get myself there? And it's amazing. I learned this as a triathlete. I never would have thought in a million years when I turned 40 12 years ago that I would ever be an Ironman triathlete. Like that wasn't even on the radar of possibility. It just wasn't. I was an out of shape, overweight dad. I had a heart scare. I was a mess. I was no better or worse than anybody else. But what happened was when I started on this journey 12 years ago of just trying to take care of my heart again, my belief system started to change. And I just said to myself every day, I'm not going to end up with a heart attack, so I'm going to invest in what I eat and what I do throughout the day. And I started with these small steps. And 12 years later, I can look back at how I've journaled all of that and go, oh my gosh, I just can't believe that this has become my life now because I took the daily steps every day to just keep investing. So it really is, the journaling process for me is the big thing that I talk to a lot of people about right now because in my mind, I'm just simply trying to help people get from that fixed mindset where they think I'm stuck. Do you ever get in that position where you kind of feel like I'm just stuck right now? I'm not moving forward with my life?
Well, obviously, I'm 50, been there.
Yeah.
So I've journaled off and on through my life and found it valuable. So I was just looking more at your format, and I need somebody who has the password to be able to connect to the printer.
Okay.
Because I'm journal with paper and pencil kind of girl.
Yeah. Well, you know what? Here's a great way to get started. You don't even have to print any of this stuff out. Just go buy yourself a Hilroy notepad, right? A 250-page notepad. And because this 365 days of the year, if you did this for a year, a notepad's double-sided. So if you've got a 250-page Hilroy notepad and just each day say, okay, what is my daily mantra going to be? What are the 3 things I'm going to be grateful for today? What's the one positive thing I'm going to experience today? What are the 5 things or 3 things I need to do to realize my vision? What is my vision? Why do I want to get up and do this every day? If you just did that and started with that, that would actually take you to the point where, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 months down the road, you're kind of going, you know what? This kind of works. And the amazing thing, like I'm 52, and the amazing thing is most people who are our age, they definitely feel like they're in this place where the world is definitely changing around them. We've got the internet now. We've got paradigm shifts happening throughout every industry. People who, yeah, people who have to work for another 10 to 15 years. Let's say you're 50 and you still have to work for another 15 years. If you're not being relevant to your job right now, it's a scary time because the jobs that used to require sort of manual labor, those sorts of jobs are disappearing. And if you haven't been reskilling yourself, you could be setting yourself up for some big disappointment. And part of my mandate, I've gone through in my late 30s and mid 40s. I went through a stretch for 7 years. I worked in the automotive industry while I was running my business on the side, and I was trying to get ahead. And I watched the company that I worked for. I've got the benefit of sort of having that inside view of what complacency looks like, and people going, well, we've been here for 3 generations. I'm a 4th generation factory worker. GM's never going to close. Well, guess what? It did.
Yeah.
And
25 years ago or more, I was with London Fog, coat manufacturer.
Yeah, know who they are.
And, it was one of the most trusted brands in America. And, we moved forward with cooperative labor relations. Eventually a CEO came on board that thought he just wanted to end domestic manufacturing and whatever else, so that went by the wayside, and he actually killed the company. But other manufacturers, and I won't name names, you know, we went to this conference, and the guy that led the conference said, you know what, there's hope, and this was men's tailored clothing. There's hope because the generation that stays is dying off and giving it to the generations that spend.
Mm-hmm.
And the team I was with from my company, we all looked at each other like, are you crazy? Boomers don't want to spend their money on dress clothes anymore. You know, the whole professional dress is changing. Everybody wants to go casual. It's like, ooh. But anyway, I've seen those stuck mindsets, and I knew way back then that domestic manufacturing was dying. And there was, I did outplacement training back then, and I still do some now in coaching. But the booklet that I used of them, or a book I had, talked about the transition from the company and I owe each other, and the company's going to take care of me, to the concept the employee is like an independent contractor, and the company no longer has to be loyal to them because the whole relationship is changing.
You're so bang on. Yeah.
Yes.
I'm hearing that everywhere. You know, like the disruption shift between, it's called the Golden Handshake, right? A company, the employee signs on, they have a social contract that this is the job they're going to do. If I do my job well, keep my head down, that you'll take care of me. And we've broken that social contract because every employee now is not considered to be a long-time employee or a lifetime employee. We're in the gig world now, where it's gig contracts, and what do you bring to the table? And this is where I think it's really important for employees to really align their vision of their future with the vision of the company. When you look at hiring new people for your company, you know, one of the greatest things you can do to align the right people is to say, hey, ask the people that you're interviewing, what is your vision of the future? Paint me a picture of what it looks like 10 years from now. How do you fit into my company 10 years from now? What does that look like? And then, you know, if they've done their homework and they know what the vision of the company is, and if the company has done a good job of articulating their vision, right? So many companies don't have a good vision statement because it talks about being number one in the industry, but paint me a picture of what that looks like. I've got a great example that I use all the time in the banking industry of a friend of mine who, actually it's a friend of my son's, who went to school with my son, ended up going to the same university. I ran into him a few times because I still swim up at Brock University, and I ran into this gentleman there and watched him for 2 or 3 years as he was going through his university journey. And he ended up becoming, he got his master's in economics. He was right-hand man to the student union president. They were doing all kinds of amazing things in the community. And then one day I walked into my local bank, and there he was as a bank teller. And I thought to myself, you know, my mom used to work at this bank as a bank teller. I know you only need a high school diploma to get into this job. Why are you here? And I said to him, why are you here, Mazen? And he said to me, well, Dave, he said, I realized in university, he says, first of all, my passion, my love is economics. And he said, I realized when I was taking economics that most Canadians, most North Americans have a very low financial literacy. And one of my passions in life is to help my friends learn how to be more financially literate. So he looked at the bank and said the bank's mission that he works for, their vision is to help ensure that Canadians increase their financial literacy. So he said, okay, that's the same thing that I want to do. How can I align my two visions? Well, if it means that I have to start out as a bank teller to get started for 6 months to a year until I can get myself into a place where I can start leveraging my conversation and my story and helping other people learn, then this is the progression. I mean, how many new people do you hire into your companies who after 6 months get frustrated because they're not making a difference? Right?
Yeah.
So
that's part of that whole, you know, you and I know the shift of the contract. And the boomers realize it emotionally, but they get mad, and Gen Xers get mad because the millennials believe it. You're not showing me how I am making a difference. I'm out of here. If, you're training me and not letting me use my skills, making me sit on a bench, I'm out of here.
So isn't it interesting that, isn't it interesting though that when we're hiring people, the question that we don't ask is, what's your vision of the future and how do you fit into our company?
Oh, I know. And, there's a guy I really like, Lou Adler. And he's basically almost, but not quite, throwaway behavioral interview. Because he wants to talk more about the future, because the person may not have it on their resume, but they may have creative capability to do what you need them to do. So ask them, here's what I need accomplished in the next 3 months with this position. X, Y. How would you approach that and do it? And then you follow that future process. And he would also talk about some of those things. But I don't care how much we talk about that, and we do those kinds of things. We're still in an age of the employee as contractor. And I'm only going to be there as long as you're valuable to me.
So isn't it then in the best interest, if you look at the World Economic Forum reports that they're just putting out for the future of work, do you subscribe to any of those reports?
I typically get the summaries of them.
Okay.
I don't get the full reports.
So you're seeing what's happening out there. There's this trend of reskilling. And the scary part of it is that companies are saying to themselves, it's going to be cheaper for us to just fire who we currently have. Fire 75% of our current staff and rehire new people who possess the skills that we require to run in the digital economy, because that 75% of the staff that we have don't have a growth mindset to learn. They have that, remember that social contract where they think, if I just do my job, I'll be okay, where I think the ownership has to move on to not forcing them to be compliant and learning to upskill, but actually showing and sharing with them how perhaps the fixed mindset they have about that social contract might be what's holding them back. And maybe if we can help them actually see that they have a bit of a fixed mindset and what a growth mindset might look like, that over the course of the next year, 2 years, 3 years, they might actually put themselves into a position where they say, I want to reskill and upskill because I want to, not because I have to. And when that opportunity presents itself, I'll be ready for it. And isn't that more, is that sort of, would you look at, you're in HR, right?
Yeah, well, I've been in training officially my entire career, but training is always a part of HR. I actually am a member of SHRM instead of like ATD or whatever.
Yeah.
And that's for a couple reasons. One of which is I learn a bigger picture about organizations and organizational trends, which I think training doesn't work unless it looks at a big picture. Secondly, they're the people that hire. Thirdly, I've been around a lot of trainers who do nothing but complain that they're not at the table, but don't know a damn thing about accounting.
Well, if you want to seat at the table, you've got to bring value.
Exactly. And if you want to bring value, you need to talk in the dollars and cents and the accounting and the purpose and vision of the organization.
And that's exactly...
Those things interrelate to numbers.
Yeah, you have to be able to, in the learning side of the business, you have to be able to demonstrate real value back to the business, right? Because learning and training usually sits outside of the business, and then you've got the business that's at the table, a seat at the table, and they're making the real decisions. Well, you have to be able to take your learning and training efforts and you have to be able to demonstrate real value back to the business, showing them how training is actually helping them achieve their business goals monetarily, defining what success actually looks like, and actually helping them achieve operational efficiencies through training. When you can do those three things and you can measure those three things, then you can actually demonstrate real value back to the business. That gives you a seat at the table. That gives you the opportunity to have more leverage as a training organization within the business.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And, I tell anybody, any young person that I come across who's interested in HR and training, I said, if you hadn't planned to take them, you need to take Accounting 101, Accounting 102, Finance.
Mm-hmm.
Because understanding the numbers is what gets you to the table.
Yep. And
connecting what you do to the numbers. Not to my employees are going to feel better and be fluffy and, hey, look at this. People who get more training are more satisfied, and those companies have higher ROIs. No, that's too big of a leap.
Yeah.
Got to lay it down to, there's this issue we've been talking about as a problem. This is what I want to do. This is the results I anticipate. Da, 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 da. And the other thing is take a systems approach. I was at worked for Nestle for a number of years. I just left. And and the way a lot of what is in certain areas, some of which I weren't responsible for, but they would retrain on SAP every 3 months and still get the same mistakes.
Mm-hmm.
Well, guess what? I mean, I went to the senior guy over operations and I looked at him and I said, Bill, I am not going to allow you to have one more class on SAP. Because the problem isn't people knowing how to do it. The problem is people not being held accountable to do it.
Yeah. No, I totally agree.
And you need to have your supervisors explain the why behind the what.
You're a fan of Simon Sinek.
And, and we make ice cream.
Yeah.
Or make, and I mean, like Haagen-Dazs, good stuff, drumstick. And by not doing the stuff in SAP correctly, it may mean that if people get sick out in the public, it could screw up our being able to track down how much of a lot of the ice cream was impacted,
mm-hmm.
and how much of a, what do you call it, where did it come from? Did it come from a vendor? Did it come from,
Mm-hmm.
And do you really get more people to get sick because you're not entering this information, and I was, that I did that thing. And then the thing I want to get back to, though, is, the comments that I had, you had that great video that I watched this week. And you went through stuff really fast, about time management, essentially.
Mm-hmm.
But was there any reference that I missed where I could go to look for links? Or, okay, I want to apply this. There are 3 different options here. What do you want me to do?
Okay, so you're talking about time management, time blocking, time boxing. Okay, so the video that I referenced to, I think they did a really good job. The headlining video did a really good job of going into more depth. What I try to do with people with the journal that I've created is I try to give them the basics. First of all, one of the things that I often do for companies when I go out and talk to them is I'll sit down and do a workshop with them and go through each one of these sections until everybody in the room understands it, understands the value of it, and then they become an influencer within their own organization. So I find that, you know, in order to actually make real and meaningful change, you need to surround yourself with a group of like-minded people who want to create change within their organization. And then those are the people who become the voice. They become the influencers within the organization, and they need to learn how to communicate that effectively. So when you look at time blocking and time management, what I've laid out in the journal are a couple of things. First of all, you know, if you're not following a daily plan and you're just letting sort of things fly at you left, right, and center, your day will happen. At the end of the day, you'll go, oh my gosh, what a busy day. There's no time to do anything else. I'm tired. I'm going to go home and do whatever I'm going to do, veg out and watch TV, whatever people do. In my world, I know I've been really, my wife reminds me all the time, I'm a very different person because I think and act differently than most people, but I think that's because I've trained myself to manage my time wisely. You know, people say, how do you get up in the morning to exercise? And I say, well, I know why I get up to exercise. My why statement for me is very clear. My vision of who I want to be is very clear. And I realize that if I want that to happen, I need to invest every day. So when you think about time blocking and time management, you need to block out time for you to achieve your vision. So when I was actually going through the journaling process with some folks, I realized really quickly that the way that I had laid the journal out initially, people were just creating a to-do list of things, like a shopping list of things to do every day. And I said, no, that's not what I'm asking you to do. You've already got that in your daytime or at work or in your Microsoft Outlook calendar. What I'm asking you to do with your to-do list in the journal is to look at what are the top 5 things I can do today to help me realize my vision. These are the things that really, really matter to me. They're non-negotiable. I'm going to put them down as my to-dos today. And for me, there's 2 major to-dos. One is I exercise every day because that's part of realizing the vision that I want to be, you know, 20, 30, 40 years down the road. But the second thing that's a non-negotiable, my anchor activities are LinkedIn networking, because I realize that the more breadth that I can get, the more connections that I can make, the more I can spread my message. And I know my message is very clear. I've got sort of a 2-pronged message. One is that as a business development manager for NIIT, you know, I'm always cognizant that I'm trying to open new doors for that organization to provide training. On the other hand, I've got a multiple deal contract where I can go out and represent myself as a brand and as a speaker. And I go out and I talk to people about my vision, which is that one day I have this vision that every parent will be able to sit around their kitchen table with their kids and have these amazing conversations, informed, intelligent conversations about diet, exercise, and mental health. In order for that to happen, we just have to have a growth mindset, not a fixed mindset. And so that's why connecting with thought leaders like yourself on LinkedIn are important to me, because you in HR or in learning have the ability to be the megaphone that reaches out to more people within organizations. You have the ability to be an influencer. So, you know, being really clear in your day about what are the things that you need to do to help you realize your vision 10 years down the road. That's what goes onto your to-do list. And then as you sort of track out your activities throughout the day, you know, I always try to bounce back and forth between left and right-brained activities. To go into it in a little more depth, dopamine is what controls what you do with your time.
I got the brain stuff.
Yeah, so you get that, right? So I try to help people just see, you know, jump between left and right activities so you don't get polarized on one side or the other. Make sure you get up and move every day. But also, you know, depending on the job that you have, some people have a service job where they just have to sit there and be responsive to people coming up to them, where other people have more flexibility to control their time. So what I would suggest to you to do is to go into more depth on time blocking. I mean, you can do all the reading and the research in the world about time management and time blocking. It's a thing. It makes sense. I'm glad that for you, you're telling me that the video that I created and perhaps the information in the front of my journal isn't enough to help you understand the concept behind time blocking. Is that kind of what you were saying?
No, that's not what I was saying.
Okay.
I think a lot of what you were saying is clear.
Okay.
And, you know, people aren't going to obviously be able to just go do it after a short video.
Yeah.
But, you know, one, you talk a little fast for me on the video.
Okay.
But that's, again, I think more age-related. Because for younger folks and their multitasking and how much faster their brain moves, I think the speed works.
Okay.
The thing that I was saying is, well, if I just want to try this concept, you know, I'm going to have to go out and do my research and my homework or whatever. But if I wanted to, like, try and apply the concept you just did, if there's an app out there that goes over the basic outline and the steps, the 3 different types of blocking that you described, then maybe I can start trying it.
Yeah, you know what? There are some apps that yeah, there are some apps that exist, and actually in the video that went along with that article that I posted, they do at the end of that 10-minute YouTube video, they do share some apps for time blocking and time block management that are there. So that's a good resource to go back to, is go back to the video that's in the article. And at the end of his video, he actually posts what those resources are for apps that work for time blocking, which is awesome. Yeah.
Yeah, and I didn't even hardly catch the links. So, and again, that's kind of the speed.
Okay.
But, you know, even then, I may not want to watch another video. So you can say, well, at the end of this video, there are links to resources to be able to apply this. You know, so that's going to give me more interest to go and look at that link.
Okay. No, I appreciate that feedback. I mean, that's...
I may not want to watch another video.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so it could be, you know, maybe it's something at the end where you post to helpful resources, or, you know, I don't know. But the screen at least sits there so I can, at the end for several seconds, so I can just take a quick picture on my phone, and then I at least have that or something, because people want things just in time now.
They do, absolutely.
Want them when they want to use them. And too much of our training and the totality of our influence is often, you know, we're trying to persuade of something that's different than if you're trying to get them to do something. I mean, ultimately, you want them to do your journal. You want them to take on the vision of a whole life perspective that includes healthy living. I think that's, you know, your primary goal. And you see these other things as tools to help people get there, which is excellent. But how can I do it electronically? Is there a form online? Is there some way I can do this with my phone, which is going to be extremely difficult because of the length of the phone? But, you know, it's just, I want to be able to do it on my pad or my phone, wherever I am, not necessarily, you know. So I'm just a proponent of just in time. It's like, I hate most e-learning. I think it's totally ineffective. Not all, but most. I hate most classroom training because how many people have been through listening skills classes and don't listen any better than they did 25, 30 years ago?
You know what? We know that learning happens by doing.
Oh, absolutely. I'm a 70-20-10 kind of person.
Yeah. And that's where I think, you know, the best way to help teach these skills to every regular average person out there, an employee working for a company, is for you to build a grassroots movement of people who are competent and confident in delivering these skills. So think about your training team and ask yourself, how many of your trainers have the ability to sit down and talk about the how, the what, the why, to talk about vision statements, to talk about time management. How many of those folks can talk about positive gratitude and talk about how that actually creates more opportunity, and how many people can actually talk about fixed mindsets and growth mindsets in a way that becomes relevant to your teams. I got to tell you, one of the most interesting parts of this experience for me last night was actually sitting down with my wife, who I will describe as somebody with a fixed mindset. And she's not like, we're polar opposites. I'm the optimist, she's the pessimist. And she said, Dave, I don't want to get left behind, which is, it was such a metaphor for our work field right now. I mean, our workplace. So many people who are in their 50s don't want to get left behind, but yet they don't want to go back to school. They don't want to reskill. They don't want to retrain. They have this fixed mindset. And it is really hard for these people to kind of pick their heads up and go, how can I just, rather than watch a television show or watch Instagram or whatever is entertaining you at the moment, how can you just take 5 minutes and try to articulate what your future looks like? So one of the most gratifying experiences I've had in this process last night was sitting down and asking my wife to stretch her brain. And I think that's what we need to be doing in our training with our people, is to sit them down and have smaller workshops of maybe 30 people where we've got, an hour to 2 hours where we can sit down and help these people get aligned with their why, their vision, and why what they're doing is going to help them realize their vision and help them. For me, the beautiful part, and I know that you want to talk about technology, but the beautiful part of having this paper document in front of me, and I've got mine in front of me right now, it's like a phone book. And the funny thing is, talk to a millennial and tell them it's like a phone book, and they'll go, what? Because they don't know what a phone book is. But this reminds me of a phone book. It's so bloody thick. But, what I was able to do last night really easily, tactfully, was to go back over the course of the last month and actually see the structure of what I recorded, especially for what have I learned, or what were the things that I was grateful for, or what were the positive experiences that I had. And I know you want to put that into a digital format, but when you put it into a digital format, it's so easy to just sort of not go back and look at it. It's clean and it's crisp, and what I love about getting messy with a journal is I'll make notes, I'll scribble things, I'll get in there with my pen and make a highlight of something because it really frustrated me. And to go back and look at that, I was able to go back and go, wow, the biggest thing that happened for me this month was, from a personal standpoint, was I got back into the pool. I haven't swam since my last Ironman in 1.5 years, and I got back into the pool. And when I got back into the pool, I met 5 people that I hadn't seen in over 2 years because of the training I was doing. And all of a sudden I reconnected to all these people, and my mood, I could look at what I did in the day and my mood was picking up, and I started feeling awesome about what was happening. And right now I'm getting goosebumps and the dopamine's flowing. This is the power of writing something down versus having it on an app. I will never dispute the fact that technology is the way that the world is going, but there is something to be said for putting pen to paper and being able to just sit back and look at it and flip through, and you can get your own personality and your attitude and your feelings just by looking at how you were writing that day. Was it neat and crisp? Was it methodical? Was it chicken scratch that you had to cross out 5 times until you got the answer right because you were really thinking about it? Those are clues that you can't get from an app. So to me, when you talk about making it meaningful and you talk about trying to make something that's going to be relevant to today's modern workforce, I'm still a big proponent of getting people this book in front of them and saying, you know what, if we put influencers in front of people who could actually help people articulate their why, articulate their vision, and let's have a workshop on that. Because that's going to take 1 hour to 2 hours. And once you got them past the frustration of I can't, and get them to how can I do this, all of a sudden they're baby steps. And all the other training that you start doing with them, they'll start taking it on their own, because once they've got a vision that they're aligned with, they're going to go, well, what do I need to do to reach that vision? And I know why it's important to me. So if I keep doing these things, I'm going to see the progression. The other thing you get to see is non-progression, right? It's really telling. If you looked at your app, your app might give you a nice pie chart of what you did over the month. But boy, if you go back and you look at your last month in reflection and go, yeah, I had these 3 things on my to-do list, and they sat there for like 3 weeks and I just didn't get to them. Well, why was that? Why did that happen? You can do so much more with a journal that's a pen and paper than you can with an app. So I appreciate the reasoning for wanting the technology, but there's just so much more value in being able to have something tangible in front of you that you can go back and refer to, and you can reflect more and get more out of it, because you'll get your perception or your perspective of how you were feeling that day. And that's really, when it comes down to self-motivation and why people do things because they want to, not because they have to, right? Mm-hmm. Self-motivation is led by 3 things. Can I do it? Will it work? And is it worth it, right? Those are the 3 questions that lead us to becoming self-motivated to do something. So, can I write in a journal? Yeah, sure I can. Will it work? Well, yeah, if I'm actually recording this every day, I can see what I've done. At the end of the day, is it worth the effort? Well, that comes down to, again, your vision. If doing this seems hard in the beginning, you probably have a fixed mindset. We need to be able to help people understand what that looks like and sounds like and feels like. And then, it's all about growth, because here's the thing is when you start searching every day for newness. So when I tell people, look for 3 new things to be grateful for, right? That forces you to get out of your comfort zone. That forces you to start stretching your mind to go, boy, I've already said I'm thankful for my wife and my kids and my dog and my food and my house, my car. It's warm in the house. Now what? Now I got to start thinking, what am I grateful for?
Now the snow is pretty.
Yeah. But you know what I'm saying is this process, I think the root cause of why we struggle in training and why we struggle to motivate people is because at their very core, at their very root, they're not clear beyond a paycheck, which is a result. They're not clear as to why they get up every morning and do what they do. If you have a vision that you believe strongly in, and it's not necessarily based on money, but maybe based on experiences that you get to have in life, the money will come if you do great work. So we need to get ourselves out of these social contracts where we're saying, I'll do good work. I've signed my contract. I promise to be a good employee. I'll do good work. No, you've got to get out of that mindset and say, I've got to keep my head up. I've got to keep looking for opportunities down the road. I've got to learn something new every day. I think that's one of my favorite parts of the journaling process, is just recording one new thing that I learned today. Because it forces you at the end of the day to go, did I read something? Did I watch something on YouTube? Did I learn something? And some of the crazy things I learned this month were I learned how to fix a light fixture in my kitchen. I went to YouTube and hey, I can write that down to you. I learned how to fix a light fixture today. And I got excited by that because it was something that was, it tells me that I'm moving forward. I got excited the other day because I learned how to use a hashtag on Instagram. I'm 52 years old.
That's one of the things that's on my learning.
I go to my 20-year-old daughter. I say, please tell me what a hashtag is and what it's supposed to do. And can I own one? Can I buy one? How does it work? And she gives me kind of a silly look. And she's in communications and business. She goes, I don't think you can own one, Dad, but I can tell you a little bit about how they work. And so it's interesting because we have this digital economy that's just creating such paradigm shifts, such disruption in every industry. And the people that I'm concerned about are the people who are 40 plus, because
absolutely,
these are the ones who have kids, they have families, they've got the mortgage, the house, the kids, the cars, everything, and they're trying to maintain that lifestyle. They're living paycheck to paycheck to maintain that lifestyle, and these are the people that our decision makers are talking about cutting loose because they don't have time to learn, right? What does your training department tell you the number one problem is? Challenge? People don't have time to learn. So if they don't have time to learn, what you're really saying, you're running your death sentence to your company by telling your CEO, I don't have time to train. He's going, well, if you don't have time to train, I'm just going to let you go and hire somebody who already has the skills.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Right? So we've got to get these people to pick their heads up, right? And stop thinking, I just have to go in and do a great job today or a good job today and just be average, and pick your head up and go, how can I start training my brain? Just like I trained myself to become an Ironman. How do I train myself to do something that I don't really believe I can do yet? But boy, 2 years from now, if I keep investing in this, I don't know where it's going to take me. You know, I always use the analogy of being an Ironman. I started out going for a walk because I wanted to have a healthier heart. I wanted to walk my daughter down the aisle one day when she gets married. You know, I wanted to have those experiences. I didn't want to die of a heart attack, which was where the direction I was going. This all started because of a heart scare in the hospital at 40. And I could never have imagined where the journey took me, but because I was journaling it, because I was watching, and I go back and I read like from 4 or 5 years ago and think, why was I doing that like that? You know, why did this happen? So it's really interesting if you can hold on to your journals. I've got an electronic journal on Excel that I used for years. And it's just amazing how your belief system constantly changes. And it's these 40s and 50-year-olds that we have to get them to say, you know what, it might sound really intimidating to be a computer programmer or to be, you know, whatever you need to be in your organization to be effective still. But if you have the fixed mindset and say, I can't do that, I'm too old to learn, you will not succeed. But if you say, how can I acquire those skills over the next year? I know I don't have to have them today, but 2 years from now, that might be what the industry is saying. My current job is going to take me from a cashier role to something else. I can transfer these skills over. How do I need to get from A to B? Well, I have to take the onus on myself to do some training. There's lots of free training available out there, edX, for example. If it's a university degree that I need to get, I can get it for free without just not getting the diploma. Big deal.
What was that?
edX? Yeah, just
Oh,
Google.
at FedEx?
No, edX, EDX.
At,
I think the website is edx.org. Every major university around the globe makes all their courses available for free. You just don't get the degree, the piece of paper at the end.
yeah.
So I would challenge you, would you rather have the smartest 52-year-old in your company, even though they don't have the piece of paper that says I graduated from Stanford, but they took all the training from Stanford and passed all the courses and can display quite evidently that they're competent and they're a 52-year-old with plenty of life experience to complement that new skill. It's a free resource that's available that people don't even know about.
Right,
So,
and I've been looking at some different courses and things, you know, from other sources that are free, and some of them offer university courses or whatever. Some have a small fee or whatever.
I'm a big proponent of free. I like free.
Me too. And
you know, it's a funny thing. Somebody once said to me, you know, when I go talk to my bank manager, because at the end of the day, for me to be happy as a person, I have to keep the people at the bank happy. I have to have enough money to pay for my mortgage. I have to have enough money to pay for my retirement. And the funny thing is, in all the years, the 52 years I've been doing business, working with the banks, they've never asked me what my grades were. They've never asked to see my university diploma. You know, we tie ourselves up into these moments of documentation that aren't required. The skills are out there. People are putting the skills out there. If I want to learn how to be a savvy social media marketer, I watch Gary Vaynerchuk because he's telling me every day how to do it, right? Mm-hmm. I don't need to go to university to take a course on social media marketing when they're already 3 years behind the curve teaching that course. I need to talk to somebody and listen to somebody who's currently doing what I want to be doing in that space. And there's no better avenue to do that than to do, you know, go onto YouTube and follow people on Instagram who are doing, and LinkedIn, that are doing what you want to be doing, and learn from them, because most of them give stuff away. That's why I give my journal away. It's been the most influential piece of who I am today. And all I want to do is make it clearer for people how to use it. So, Amy, I really appreciate the insights that you gave me towards some of the training and how I can make it better. Other people have also given me insights. It's that feedback and the humility to be able, as a trainer, to say, okay, how can I be better? Right? I'm not there yet. I haven't figured out how to do this right yet. I'm getting closer every day, but it takes feedback from people and humility and the recognition that we can all learn from each other that makes the learning possible.
Aristotle said that humans can never have anything perfect because we have this ideal concept of perfect in our minds that we'll never be able to meet. Like, there'll never be a perfect chair for the guy who makes chairs. So, you know, that in and of itself is an opportunity to strive to continue moving forward, just like the way people learn is going to continue to change with all the technology that's out there. But I left Nestle because I wasn't being given enough opportunity to learn, to apply the skills and get that 80% or 70% experiential learning. They wanted me to be doing stuff that was old school. Now, I managed e-learning development. I did just-in-time learning, not electronically. And that doesn't count on my resume. You know, that the stuff I was doing was old school. It counts that I managed it, but I needed to get some real experience and some practical experience with clients. So I've always kind of kept my Conklin Services shingle out there. And so for a while I'm doing Conklin Services while I work on upskilling and, you know, doing some of these things that I generally know how to do. I just, you know, work it from there. But
So Amy, let me ask you this. Let me ask you two questions, because I'm going to have to go in about 5 minutes. Two quick questions just to follow up. One, what's your greatest challenge that you're facing right now? And two, how do you want to keep moving forward with this conversation?
Are you saying a conflict, you know, with conversing with you?
Yeah.
Or?
Yeah.
Okay, well, one, you seem like a great person to network with and knock ideas off with.
Awesome.
I wanted to see if any of my perspectives may help you or may potentially lead to me doing, you know, some volunteer work to help you that then I can put out there and say, you know, go look at this link. I did this for him, blah, 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 blah.
Hey, one of the biggest things you can do is to, even if here, I'll give you a suggestion, the PDF of the download of the journal, I'm going to really strongly suggest that you just do 31 days of the journal, so you can go and print out, just take the PDF and print out, you know, pages, 68 to 90, whatever corresponds to this month. Print it out, print out the back pages of the journal so that you've got a little booklet that's maybe, you know, 30 pages long, that gives you your why and your vision statement, and that gives you the next 4 weeks of journaling and the reflection page. And just do that for 31 days, and they get back to me and say, hey, this was my experience. Because I think what you'll find, as much as we want to do things digitally, as soon as you start putting pen to paper, it becomes a lot more real and meaningful, and it's really easy.
And a pen to paper journaling person.
Pardon me?
I said I am a pen to paper journaling person.
Oh, perfect, great. So if you do that and just follow the structure that's there, you know, I'm very curious to hear about somebody else who's passionate about journaling and passionate about growth mindsets. I'm very curious to hear how that experience will work for you after 31 days. We've been doing a focus group for the past month with a number of HR executives in and around, actually globally, because there's a couple who are from Australia, who have been going through this process sort of behind the scenes with me and giving me feedback. And I think the biggest thing that we can do to help become those influencers within our own circle of influence, to help our friends, the people who matter to us, maybe the close employees or the close friends or our family, if we can learn how to be an influencer to have growth mindsets, and if we can learn how to communicate that effectively with others, and not preach, but share what we've learned, there's a difference there. which
absolutely.
took me a number of years. That's actually why I got away from talking about health and wellness, is because I found that most people have fixed mindsets, and when you talk to them about your success, they get very, very introverted, and they feel bad about themselves, and they don't want to talk about it anymore. And then you alienate your friends. You alienate the people you want to help, and you realize that the more I yell from a tower and try to explain to people what I've learned, the more freaked out they get. So I'd rather lead as a role model by example. That's why if you actually go onto my website, you'll see my first 31 days of the journal. I posted it publicly, talked about it on my blog page, because I wanted to share with people what I was feeling going through the process. And it was a challenge for me, and especially to make it visible to everybody. But at the end of the day, that process of vulnerability has allowed me to communicate with people like yourself and say, look, go through the journal, share your feedback after a month, join our communities, become an influencer around the people you care about, and see how this process can actually, this growth mindset process can actually change lives. And if that sounds exciting to you, that's how I'd like to move forward with our conversation, is just download, print out for a month what you can, and then connect with me after a month and say, these were the challenges I found, but this is what worked really well too. And that will allow me to massage my training, my messaging, so that it actually does become easier for people who...
Hold on a second. You're a great extrovert. Love it. I'm an introvert.
Mm-hmm.
The one that I downloaded a couple days ago is the same one that's out there now, correct?
You're talking about the article I posted, or the journal?
The journal.
You've got so if you went to my website, to the virtual ed training page, that says free VLT, if you go there, you can download a full 1-year journal. It's a PDF.
And I did that.
Right. So then, what you want to do from there now is even send the file over to a local printer, and just say, hey, can you print me pages 30 through 68, and blah blah blah.
I don't even need to do that. I just got to get somebody to put the password in.
Oh, okay, yeah. But just get that part done. Go through it for 31 days, and then come back and reach out to me again. We'll have another call.
Hold on. Okay, have you ever looked at sales models?
Yes.
Okay. One of the things in sales models, one of the biggest things is listening
Mm-hmm.
and asking questions.
Mm-hmm.
And you spent the majority of time talking
Mm-hmm.
and talking very quickly with your passion.
Mm-hmm.
And you're extroverted.
Yep.
Go back and look at the sales model
Listen.
about how to have a conversation. Think about the questions you want to ask to help people determine their needs, and then you can guide your conversation toward how this journaling will meet those needs.
Mm-hmm.
You just need to find the right questions.
Mm-hmm.
Because, I mean, you've been doing a sales pitch predominantly throughout the conversation, which is fine. You're passionate, and I get that. But from an influencing standpoint, I think that will help you influence more effectively.
That is excellent feedback.
Okay.
And I'm here. I love to talk. Worst part of my character, and when I get passionate, I do talk a lot. So I would have loved to have asked better questions that had engaged more conversation from your side as well. So let's. I'll tell you what. Let's go through the process. Let's reconnect in 31 days, and let's see where that takes us. Let's see how we can both improve over the next 31 days. Sound good?
Sounds good. All right.
All right. Awesome, Amy. Thanks, and I'll reach out to you to have another follow-up call.
All right.
Excellent. Have a great day.
You too. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.